Okay, so I came across this stat that genuinely surprised me. A study out of the University of Vermont found that 98% of men and 80% of women reported having sexual fantasies about someone other than their partner in the past 2 months.
Wait, 98%? That's basically everyone.
Basically, everyone. And these weren't people in unhappy relationships, this was across the board.
Okay, but I think we need to define what we're talking about here. There's a huge spectrum between, like, a fleeting thought about a coworker and actively building detailed recurring fantasies about someone's specifics.
Sure, fair, but I think that's kind of the point. The fleeting stuff is so common that calling it abnormal feels ridiculous. Your brain just does that.
Right. I don't think anyone's arguing that a stray thought means your relationship is doomed, but I'd push back on the idea that it's all just harmless brain noise.
How so?
Well, there's research showing that when people repeatedly fantasize about a specific person, like not a celebrity, but someone in their actual life, it can shift their emotional attachment. It starts to erode the exclusivity that a lot of relationships are built on.
Okay, but that's the extreme end, though. I'm talking about the average person who's happily married, sees an attractive stranger, and their mind wanders for 30 seconds.
And I agree that's totally normal. I'm just saying the conversation usually stops there, and people don't talk about the gray area in between.
That's a good point, actually. The gray area is where all the guilt lives.
Exactly, and the guilt is interesting because it's almost more damaging than the fantasy itself sometimes.
Oh, totally. I've heard therapists say that the shame spiral people go into, like, I'm a terrible partner for even thinking this, that does way more harm to a relationship than the actual thought ever could.
Yeah, Esther Perel talks about this a lot. She's pretty emphatic that fantasy is its own separate space, and it doesn't necessarily reflect what you actually want in reality.
Right, and I love how she frames it. She basically says the opposite of what most people assume, that having a rich inner fantasy life can actually make your real relationship stronger because you're not putting this impossible burden on one person to fulfill every single need.
See? And that's where I start to diverge a little. I get the theory, but I think it depends enormously on the relationship and the people in it.
Okay, but
No, hear me out. If one partner would be genuinely hurt knowing the other person fantasizes about their best friend, then it's not really neutral, is it? The impact matters even if the intent is harmless.
but that's an argument for not sharing it, not an argument that it's wrong to have the thought.
Is it, though? I think some people would argue that if you have to hide something, that itself is a signal.
I don't know, Morgan. I think we're all entitled to a private inner world. Like, not every thought in your head needs to be shared or evaluated by your partner.
I actually agree with that in principle. I just think people use "it's just a thought" as a way to avoid examining patterns. If you're consistently fantasizing about someone you see every day, that's worth sitting with.
Okay, yeah, I'll give you that. There's a difference between random mental noise and something your brain keeps returning to.
Right. And here's the thing. I don't even think it means the relationship is bad. Sometimes it means something's missing that you haven't identified yet. Maybe novelty, maybe a certain kind of attention.
That's wild because it's almost like the fantasy is diagnostic. It's telling you something.
Exactly. It can be information rather than a verdict.
Okay, here's where I want to bring up something that I think complicates all of this. The role of social media and just constant exposure to attractive people.
Oh, 100%.
Our grandparents weren't scrolling through hundreds of faces a day. The sheer volume of attractive humans you encounter now, even digitally, is unprecedented. Of course, your brain is going to wander more.
That's a really good point, and there's actually data on this. A 2019 study found that increased Instagram use correlated with lower relationship satisfaction and higher rates of emotional infidelity.
Wait, seriously? Emotional infidelity specifically?
Yeah, things like developing crushes on people you follow, comparing your partner to curated images. It's not fantasy in the traditional sense, but it occupies a similar space.
Man, That shifts things. Because we've been talking about this like it's a private mental event, but when you're actively scrolling and engaging with someone's content, it's not purely internal anymore.
And I think that's the real line. It's not about whether you have a fantasy, it's about whether you start acting on it, even in small ways, seeking someone out, creating opportunities.
So your line is behavioral, not mental.
I think so, yeah. Thoughts are thoughts, actions are choices.
See, I actually think the line is even earlier than that. I think the line is when the fantasy starts to make your real partner feel insufficient. Not when they find out, when it changes how you show up.
That's an internal metric, though. How would you even measure that?
I mean, you'd feel it. If you're lying next to your partner and feeling disappointed because they're not whoever you were just thinking about, that's a problem. That's the fantasy leaking into reality.
Okay, that's actually really well put. I think we're landing in a similar place from different directions.
Yeah, I think we are. It's normal. It's human. Full stop. But normal doesn't automatically mean harmless in every context.
Right. The fantasy itself isn't the problem. It's what you do with it, whether you let it inform you or whether you let it distort what's actually good in front of you.
And honestly, the biggest takeaway for me is that the guilt might be the worst part of the whole thing. If people could just accept that their brains are going to do this and stop treating it like a moral failing, they'd probably have healthier relationships.
I'd agree with that. Normalize the experience, but stay honest with yourself about what it means when it keeps happening. That feels like the mature middle ground.
The mature middle ground. Look at us being grown-ups about it.
Don't get used to it.